Welcome to Magical Memories Unlocked, your guide to events that truly rock. From tips on planning and entertainment to will help you make your dream event come true. Now, without delay, let's dive into your guide to event success today.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to Magical Memories Unlocked, your guide to event success. Today we have Angela. She is on here with us. She is one of, one of the best photographers I know. To the point that I actually hired her for my own wedding. So that's, I think that says a lot. I always tell people whenever they're looking for a photographer, I'm like, I had her for my own wedding. So I think that says all it needs to say.
Yeah,
But I don't need to go to.
trust. Thank
Thank
you.
you. So I want you to try to start us off. Introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself, your experience, what you do, and we'll go into it.
Okay, sure. So, hi, everybody. I'm Angela Gaul, but everyone calls me Angie. And actually, the reason why I use my formal name is because very early on in my career, I was a photojournalist. I worked actually, I have a degree in photojournalism. I worked for the Associated Press and the Miami Herald and moved a lot of pictures on the global news wires and was published in USA Today and the New York Times. And so I'm actually a photojournalist, and my byline was Angela Gaul. And so if you were to look up like photos by Angela Gaul, you would see this great, what I call my Google portfolio of all of my bylines from the various places. So, yeah, I used to take pictures that meant a lot to the world of, presidential inaugurations. And now I've kind of swapped. I used to be a photojournalist who did weddings and stuff on the side. And now I do sort of the milestone moments in people's lives, and I freelance as a photojournalist on the side. So I used to make pictures that meant a lot to the world, and now I make pictures that mean the world to the people I shoot them for.
I feel like that was a practice line.
That's kind of my elevator pitch. That's kind of when we go to networking.
Okay, that makes sense.
That's my
Now I need to know, what's the transition? How did you get, well, first of all, how did you start in events? And then what was the transition from photojournalism to events?
Okay, sure. So the very first front page picture that I ever had printed
Mhm.
anywhere was at the student newspaper at Syracuse University, where I went to the Newhouse School. Shout out if any of the Newhouse Mafia are here. And it was Kurt Vonnegut. And he gave this whole speech that I guess he was going to give as like a graduation speaker. And I guess they had shut him down because he was suggesting that the Carrier Dome be used as like a shelter for the homeless of New York. I don't know. And they shut him down. And so when he came to speak, he put on a graduation cap and gave the talk that he was going to give that day when he got shut down. This is my first front page picture anywhere. And he said, he likes to, when people want advice, what do you do with your life? That he says, what was the thing that you loved best when you were 10?
Mhm.
And find a way to do that. So
Hmm.
when I was 10, my very favorite thing, my elementary school principal had set up a photo club, and we learned how to process under the tray processing under the light with the enlarger, and you sort of see the picture come up under the processing fluid, and it's magic. And I used to like to ride around on my bike and with my little camera and take pictures and then develop them. That's what I loved to do when I was 10. And so when I became a grown up, driving around in my coverage area, driving around in my beat, taking pictures was what I like to do best.
Hmm.
So yeah, so I started out doing my first wedding. I was 19.
Hmm.
I was a photo major. This is around the time that I had that first picture in the student newspaper, and my boyfriend was a groomsman in a wedding.
Mhm.
And the couple was on a very tight budget, and they said, "Well, Angie's a photo major, maybe she'll do it."
Mhm.
Somebody's wedding. So I said, I'm not going to charge you a thing. I'm not even going to charge you for film. This was back in the day. I will provide the film. I will pay for it. I have no idea how this is going to go.
Hmm.
And then I didn't completely mess it up. And I was like, oh. And then, I was sort of in college and just out. And so a lot of my friends were getting married. And I didn't mess up in a church, and I didn't mess up in a synagogue, and I didn't mess up in a ballroom, and I didn't mess up in town hall. And I thought, okay, maybe there's something to this.
Mm-hmm.
So, and also when I was freelancing for the Miami Herald in particular, people would call up and they'd say, "Do you know any wedding photojournalists?" And the Miami Herald didn't really recommend their own staffers, but they'd say, "Oh, we have this great freelancer." So they started sending me out, and I very much look at weddings with my photojournalist perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So what I'm really there to do is to tell love stories. So a full like 75-80% of what I do is purely candid documentation
Mm-hmm.
with all of the laughter and the beauty and the tears that come out effortlessly on a wedding day.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and I'm mostly photojournalistic.
Mm-hmm.
I am fun at a party, so fun, but you are not there to hang out with me. Uh, and so my goal is to get every, thing that we want to get, all the
Mm-hmm.
pictures, but then get you back to your party as soon as possible because especially a magical memories entertainment party, there might be like tropical birds. Like we don't even know what's going to be there. Steve had tropical birds at his wedding. Maybe you
I
can
did.
drop one of the pictures in of that. But yeah, so I started doing weddings very young age. I did them on the side, and then I got married.
Huh?
Hmm. I got married, and I started to realize how very swayed I was by vendors' websites. At
Okay.
the time, I had like a black and white website with my pictures on it, and I thought if people like my pictures, they will hire me
Mm-hmm.
because they like the photos. And then I was a bride, and I thought, wow, I am really swayed by these websites.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, okay, what happened would happen. So I
Mm-hmm.
launched my own website in 2008, and I did one of the pretty, templates, and they had music that would sort of start when you came in. And my business took off from there.
Wow.
And yeah, and then I was still at the paper. And
Mm-hmm.
then I got married. Like I said, I was on my honeymoon.
Mm-hmm.
My newspaper was owned by the same company that owns USA Today, Gannett
Okay.
News. And I was in Sydney in the airport and I saw USA Today and it said, Gannett News Service lays off 6,000 US workers. And I thought, wow, I hope I have a job when I get back from my honeymoon. And I did. I
Okay.
did. But the main bossity boss who ran the bureau office I was in was gone. And
Mm.
they started laying off like the expensive people, so the Pulitzer winners. And I was watching all of my mentors just walk out to their car with all of their belongings and their Pulitzer,
Mm.
plaques in a box. And so I was crying all the time. And my husband said, okay, while you're still employed, why don't we get everything that you need to launch your own studio
Mm.
so that if it comes down to that, then you're ready to launch. So that's what I did. And yeah, and eventually in 2010, I made a leap of faith
Mhm.
just to do this full time. So
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah, thank you.
That's so great. I would love for you to speak a little bit about what photojournalistic style is, because I think this is a big question. People throw around styles and words and things, but I don't know if everybody understands what that actually is, and maybe the different types of wedding photography or photography in general, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. So, I am a wedding photojournalist. That means I am there to capture the story of your day.
Hmm.
Um, and it's, of course, right? It's the story of your day as we all wish it had happened. So, yeah, if your stepmother and your mom throw down in the wedding suite, like, we don't need to capture that. Like, we don't need that memory
Mm,
forever.
gotcha.
It's the story of your day, but as we all wish it had happened.
Oh.
And so what I love is people say, like, look at this. Look at how he looks at you when you're not looking. Look how much love is in his eyes. Like, I captured that for you, and now you'll always have that.
Mm,
But what that means is a lot of times my clients do not necessarily look editorial Instagram perfect. They do early in the day.
hmm.
By the time, especially we can talk a little bit about a first look and why I think clients should do that
Hmm.
when their hair and makeup is fresh. But by the time you get to the magical memories entertainment part of the day, hopefully your hair, you're having the time of your life. Hopefully, your updo is falling, you're up on a horror chair. Maybe you're glistening in a way that maybe your airbrush makeup, your
You're
contouring.
schwitzing. You're
Glistening.
schwitzing is what you're doing.
You're glisten. Listen, I glisten. I do. I'm a sweaty Betty. And I tell people like I am Schwitt woman, like that's my superhero. Like wherever someone's skin is not moist enough, I'll be there. But I really want to capture those feelings. So if you're up on the horror chair and your hair
Hmm.
is falling and you are screaming with joy and reaching out for your loved one, they're reaching
Hmm.
out for your new husband, like yes, wedding photography gold. And I actually had a client write an essay that was published on the internet. It My worst wedding photo is my favorite wedding photo. Okay. And it was a picture of her ugly crying.
Oh no.
And and she loved it. She loved her ugly cry photo. She loved that it was documented. So I'm really looking for, you know, um, I'm really looking for all of the moments that you never want to forget.
Hmm.
And even moments you didn't know were happening.
Hmm.
So, couples get so swept up in their wedding day and they don't necessarily see the moment that the flower girl, when she was changing out of her little dress, for something more comfortable for the reception. But maybe this is like a really picture I love. She was like maybe two. And she's in her diaper and she grabbed the bride's veil because she was switching out of her ceremony veil into like her reception hair. And she's like running through the getting ready suite in her diaper with the bride's veil. And that's something the bride had no idea happened. So that was such a fun surprise to give her. And I think the day goes so fast and everybody tells you that.
Hmm.
But you really do, want documentation of all of that. So, like I said, 80% of what I do is just whatever happens. And
Hmm.
then about 10% of what I do is I do think it's important just to take a little bit of time when everybody you love is all together looking super fine. And we just make sure, especially if your grandparents are still with us, it's such a
Hmm.
blessing. To get really nice photos of you and your mom, you and your dad, you and your mom and dad.
Hmm.
What I call the original recipe family. So this is like the family that celebrated Christmas together in the year
I
1995.
love that.
The original recipe family. And then there's then we add on to like the 13 herbs and spice. I don't know where this Kentucky Fried Chicken metaphor is going, but so I really think it's important just to get all of those moments because you don't ever want to be looking back and saying, I want one photo with my mom. Why is there no photos of me and my mom on my wedding day?
Hmm.
And unfortunately, I don't have a time travel lens. As soon as Canon comes out with that, that's my next investment. But so I do think it's important just to take that time.
Hmm.
And, of course, we want to get back to the party as fast as possible. I like to shoot anything you spend time, energy, or money on. Cake,
Mm.
dress, shoes, flowers, um, DIY projects, because I was the ultimate DIY bride. Everything mattered to me.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, your flowers die and your cake gets eaten. And what you have left of those things is your photos of them.
Hmm.
And then another 5% is what I call the fruit cup story. Okay, so
Mm.
my parents, 1973, they've now been married 53 years.
God
They
bless.
got married. And yeah, and every year on their anniversary, my mom would get out their big, heavy, wedding album. And every year. And we'd look at it and she would say, oh, I loved my fruit cup. I loved my fruit cup from my wedding. It was like a brandy snifter rolled in sugar
Mm.
with fruit salad in it. And for their 25th anniversary, my grandmother, my sister, and I threw a surprise party for them.
Hmm.
And luckily, there was this photo of my godfather giving the best man speech, and on the table was the fruit cup.
Hmm.
So we were able to take this photo to the caterer and say, can you recreate this sugar encrusted fruit salad for my mom? And you never know what's going to be somebody's fruit cup. So
Hmm.
I'm very aware of, I photograph, if you had four entrees, I'm getting a photo of all four.
Mm.
Um, because you just never know. You
Hmm.
never know what will be somebody's
Resonates with somebody.
great.
Hmm.
And the last 5% of what I try to do is make a picture that's really unique to you and your spouse on your wedding day.
Mm.
something that is like an art piece
Hmm.
that you can hang in your home as a canvas. So for you, Steve and Nicole, a lot of times for a lot of couples, honestly, it's a sunset moment
Mm-hmm.
because sunset's the right time of day to sort of be, you've got cocktail hour, you don't want to miss it, but maybe, the sun's going down. Um, you had a glorious sunset. Glorious sunset on your wedding day. And so something really beautiful. I think one of my favorites from your wedding is you're kind of spinning her and
Mm-hmm.
the sun is the venue sort of behind you and the sun is sort of setting and you're spinning and it to me told the story about your wedding where, the venue and the scene is really important to you because that's what you create for all of your
Mm-hmm.
clients. But then also, Nicole, she wasn't like a princessy person, but she wanted to feel like a princess on her wedding day, like right down to spinning in the gazebo or like literally like, out the turret window with her veil
Mm-hmm.
flying, Rapunzel, Rapunzel. So I think, you're spinning her and it's such a princess moment. So I feel like maybe that for you would be a canvas you'd want to hang in your home. And everybody has something like that. Maybe they're with their dog, maybe they're with their kids and it's the new family all together. But something that last 5%, I'm looking for something that you're going to want to hang in your home, and treasure forever and
Hmm.
have as a part of where you live.
Beautiful. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, you said so many great things. And I want to go down in different directions. I'm going
Yeah,
to start with one that's more practical. So you
sure.
started with you spoke about how you started at 18. You didn't charge anybody.
Yeah,
And I'm sure in today's day and age, you hear this on a lot of the Facebook groups. I'm looking for someone new, brand new, who's never done this before because they're concerned about budget.
right.
And I'm a firm believer that there's the right tool for the right person. So yes, I respect new people, giving them opportunities. But I don't know if everybody understands what goes into this. I mean, you've spoken a lot about that, and I kind of want you to just drill in what what is your as somebody that did it at 18 to now that
Yeah.
somebody has been doing it for 5 years.
Five, yes, 23.
I
23 going on. Do you want to
yeah.
know something?
Mhm.
I had a wedding at Briarcliff Manor. Shout out to Briarcliff Manor, both Steve's and my favorite venue to work at.
Mhm.
And I had a bride and groom. They were wee babies. I have a Scottish woman that lives inside me, by the way. I have an old Jewish man and I have a Scottish woman that lives inside me. And the Scottish woman in my head is always like, they're wee bairns. They're getting married. What are they? They're so young. They're babies having babies. Wee bairns getting married. So Scottish woman to me. And the bride and groom were young, and they were young by our standards, which is like 22, right? A lot of people, especially in the New York area, we
Mhm.
get married 28, 29, 30. Um, my parents got married when my mom was 21, and that's a very like 1973 age to get married. So they're like
Mhm.
21. And I think their parents got married young as well. And I
Mhm.
realized like I am closer in age for the first time to the mother of the bride than I am to the bride. So on
Yeah.
the way home, I picked up my denture cream and my adult diaper.
Aw. Uh, I, well,
So,
I'm sorry for your realization. I don't know.
so the question is, not why does it cost so much, but
No, no,
why?
not necessarily why it costs so much. Because I mean, everybody's pricing different for different
Yeah,
reasons, equipment and all that stuff. But I'm
sure.
I'm curious more about like why would somebody invest in a professional? And it could be somebody that's been doing it for 5 years or whatever. Instead of looking for somebody and saying, I want somebody brand new. Like where
Sure.
could the downfall be in bringing in somebody that is brand new?
Yeah, sure. What I was going to say though, it's not why does it cost so much, it's why it's worth so much. And the
Hmm.
value is really in the experience. Because one of my mentors said, if there's a mistake you haven't made in your business, you just haven't been in business long enough.
I like that.
Um,
That's a good point.
so for the very first time I was in business 21 years and I double booked a weekend and I had to bring in someone else
Mm.
to photograph a wedding and my own wedding photographer. I love her so much. She doesn't even shoot anymore for herself.
Mm.
And I was able to send in my own wedding photographer. But, and that has not happened again. It's been 10 years, it's been a decade. You try not to make the same mistake twice.
Hmm.
But when you're working with someone brand new, when you're working with someone who is still learning the ropes, um, there's so many little pitfalls where these priceless memories can go askew.
Hmm.
And you really need to have someone who kind of has made some mistakes.
Hmm.
And I think with weddings, and Steve, I think as an events person, you'll agree with this, there's definitely a moment for all of us vendors right before we pull open the screen, right before we open the curtain, open the door, where it's like couples you do not want to see how the sausage is made. Like there's always somebody who's got to run to like the Apple store for a cord. There's always something, there's
Hmm.
always, and then we throw open the doors and it's just like, oh, like everything is seamless. And like nobody knows that there's an assistant, there's a, assistant still under the table with some gaffer's tape or something, making it all work.
Now
So
you're looking behind the curtain right now. Jeez.
don't look behind the curtain. Nobody look behind the curtain. Nobody look for, I don't know. Nobody
Mhm.
looked for the maitre d' Jimmy with his little, butler scooping up the
Yeah,
broken
exactly.
glass that I knocked off a tray with my butt while backing up. Only happened once, 2011. Only happened once. It was during a speech and I bumped into a tray and I broke a glass with my
And did
butt.
everybody say Mazel Tov afterwards? Everybody's like Mazel
You want to
Tov.
know, actually?
Very
So the
appropriate.
groom was one of my fit photo major friends from college.
Oh
And
wow.
so talented, so talented. And he
Mhm.
knows me very, very well. And we traveled abroad together. And he just looks at me and like looks at the glass and just goes like, this is such a quintessential Angie moment. And I knew his bride very well,
Hmm.
from the same study preference. So if I'm going to knock off and break a glass with my butt during a speech, these were sort of the ideal people to do it in front of. But um, I think, so one thing that's so important is that you need equipment and then you need backup equipment.
Hmm.
You need someone who, I was my own wedding, actually. I didn't really carry a lot of backup equipment. Um, and I'd only been doing it a few years. And at my wedding, I paid to air condition an outdoor tent, which is a funny story. But the DJ was plugged into the generator power source. And during dinner, they turned it off because it was getting cold with the air conditioner. And then when they turned it back on, it completely blew out her speakers. And she said to me, like, here's what happened. She's like, I'm not worried about it. I have insurance. All good. I have another full set of DJ equipment in my car. I
Hmm.
can bring it in. I can have it set up in time, before dinner is over. But you're going to see me with like a dolly, like walking across the dance floor while your guests are eating. And I was like, hero. I was like, oh my God, like I fangirled. I was just like, I aspire to be you when I grow up. Um, so I've always carried backup equipment with me.
Hmm.
I've always been very careful about actually backing up your gear. So one thing I did not do in the beginning, one, I didn't have camera gear that was sophisticated enough to do this.
Hmm.
And then I didn't think it was necessary.
Hmm.
But a lot of cameras today have what's called a dual slot camera, where you're shooting on both a CF card and an SD card at the same time. So these are two different kinds of uh, digital cards that the pictures physically get written to.
Hmm.
And so when I hit the button, I am shooting not only the photo, but I'm actually making a backup copy in the instant that I take it
Hmm.
because I'm using that system. So I have made a backup of your image within milliseconds of it
Hmm.
happening. So I leave your wedding with two copies of everything. I tend to go home, I back everything up that night. So by the time you are waking up and going to your day after brunch, or hitting up McDonald's on your way to the airport for your honeymoon, whatever you're doing, I have three copies of your wedding pictures already taken. And then I put them on a second digital hard drive. So there are now four copies within 24 hours of your event,
Hmm.
which is a little bit obsessive.
Hmm.
But I also have a great archive system. I can put my hands on photos from weddings all the way back to 2005,
Hmm.
2004, in a matter of moments.
Hmm.
I know exactly where they are. I'm disorganized about other things. But this I have. And one of the reasons I shoot with dual slots now is because in 2013, I had shot on one card and this very interesting collaboration had come up where a social media company out in California was
Hmm.
making this YouTube video that they wanted to go viral for Honda.
Hmm.
And my couple had actually written to Honda and they had said, we are Honda people, and we both drive these cars. And could you loan us some cars on our wedding day instead of a limo? So the local Honda dealership agreed to do that, but they talked to their social media people and they decided that they were going to make this into a whole event surprise.
Mm.
When they came out of the church, they were a wonderful Irish couple. That out of there was like 10 Hondas and a surprise came out of each one. I feel like this is going to be a Magical Memories Entertainment offering now. I feel like you're going to take this and start like a surprise car parade. Or like, I don't know, like a car mitzvah or something.
You know me
End of
too
the bar,
well.
where the end of the bar mitzvah is this. So they walk out of the church and there are 10 Hondas, and the first one pulls up and it's the pub band that played at their first date comes out and plays. And then the second one, some bagpipers hop out. And then the third one, some Irish step dancers hop out.
Mhm.
In the fourth one, their cousins that Honda they flew in from Ireland, hop out. They Macy's had like bought out their registry, and so all these like wrapped presents came out.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and the Honda team had a production assistant, and he said, "I want to copy over your cards, like right there in the middle of it." And I was like, "Nope, not handing you the ceremony, not handing you, nope." But I did have some pictures of them leaving the bride's house with the like just married sign on the back of the Honda car. I'm like, that'll be fine. You can have that. And when the card came back to me, it was corrupt. Oh, and I actually have, so this is one of the reasons that you work with an experienced person, because I haven't forgotten your question. I actually have data recovery insurance.
Oh.
So this is something, if this were to ever happen again, and again, this would have to happen to like two dual slot cards, etc. 4 copies would have to go kapling for this to matter now. But I have digital, I have insurance. So if I wind up in the situation again, I can afford it. It was ended up being about $4,000. The card had to be sent to a clean room in California, where I guess guys in like suits and dust-free space pulled this apart. They got the data off, and then they had to write specific software to stitch these pictures back together. And I made Honda pay for it. Because I will now never, ever, under any circumstances, hand my digital card over to someone else for any reason. And, while I was waiting to hear if this was even doable, I mean, for like 3 weeks, I was joked before, I was wearing my brown pants. Like I was gonna poop myself. But I have those experiences that you never make twice, that really I have insurance. Which is a big thing. Actually, you probably encounter this as well. A lot of the best venues, the biggest venues, you cannot work there unless you have a certificate of insurance. So I would encourage anyone who's looking at someone starting out, they need what's called a COI. And what it basically says is that if Great Aunt Nellie trips over my camera bag, she can't sue the venue. Or if you electrocute someone, they can't sue the venue. Not that you'd electrocute someone with your
Very low battery
with
powered
your
camera.
your LCD. No, I was thinking like your LCD screens that shoot sparks and and I don't even know what you call it, smoke, all the razzle dazzle that you do. I mean, let's put it this way: if like the giant robot guy stomps on a flower girl or something, they can't sue the venue. And everybody, like even if you want a friend to bake your cake, they need to have insurance because the venue doesn't, what if everybody gets sick from their buttercream frosting? They don't want to be liable. So you need to make sure you have that insurance. And if you engage with a vendor and you get to the month before your event and the venue says, great, can you just have them send me their certificate of insurance? If that vendor doesn't have that, then you are looking for another photographer, another DJ, another cake baker the month before your wedding. Nobody needs that kind of stress.
Well, we've been through that, as you know, it has happened, and we've all covered and been there for other people that have been there. Oh, I have, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Actually, speaking back to the Briarcliff Manor, I got a call the day. I think it was the day or the day, maybe the day before, the 2 days before. I can't remember if it was the day. I think it was the day before. I got a call from them and they're like, so we have a couple and their DJ doesn't have speakers. Can you DJ this? Apparently there was like a club, like it was a club style DJ and they're used to just walking to a venue and having all the stuff there.
Sure.
But yeah, so I mean, it happens all the time. Things that people don't realize, that you don't know the questions to ask. That's actually a really interesting transition into
Yeah.
What are some questions? So we kind of talked a little bit about, you talked about COI,
Mhm.
you talked a little bit about equipment, dual slots. What are some really important questions that a bride or anybody, any client that's looking to hire a photographer should ask?
That's a really good question. Well, one of my first things would be to go to the wedding sites and get all the questions that they tell you to ask and then rip it up. Well, it depends. I mean, Um, I do two things with my clients. Well,
Mhm,
so okay, wait. When you get married, hopefully you do it once, right?
mhm,
Maybe twice. Hopefully you do it once. And so, of course, like when you're planning your wedding, you don't even know where to begin. You don't know what to ask. And I always tell people, when they're at the beginning of their planning, just everything takes longer,
mhm,
costs more, and it's infinitely more complicated than you've ever imagined. And you kind of have to build that into your budget.
mhm,
And I even tell people at the end, be careful of the money volcano
mhm.
because you'll be 2 weeks before your wedding and it's just like, is this problem in my family solved by a rental car at Harrisburg International Airport? Like it is? Great. Take just rental car. Go, go. Great Aunt Nellie is going to be in that rental car and it's not my problem anymore.
Ew.
But that's $200 you weren't planning to spend.
Mhm,
And so, just plan for the unexpected and know that whatever you thought that you could get, photographer, videographer for $2,000, whatever you
mhm,
thought, um, it's going to be more expensive probably than you can imagine.
mhm,
And you need to be prepared for that. And also, people lose the ability to follow directions like, please go here at this time and do this. I
mhm,
think, and I'm going to answer your question about answering questions in a second, but I think people have a vision of wedding days of they want to help,
mhm,
but they want to help in the way that they want to help.
mhm,
And so, you might not want a hand embroidered uh, ring bearer pillow. You don't have a ring bearer, but this is how they always do these hand embroidered ring, and this is how they want to contribute. This is how they want to.
mhm, mhm, mhm,
And people lose the ability. I don't know what it is. I once had a bride um, got married under the Brooklyn Bridge, and I
mhm,
guess they had the wedding website and they had the save the date card and they had the, invitation and the follow-up email of like, here is where you park in downtown Brooklyn to get to our wedding under the Brooklyn Bridge.
mhm.
And I'm in the a limo with the bride, and a guest like knocks on the window or on the way to ceremony, and they, roll it down like, yes, Aunt Sally. Like, where do we park? Like, no, this is not the bride's job right now. Like you had
Mhm.
to save the date, you had the website, you had the invitation, you had the email. Like, please go here at this time and do this. So, I think if you are, at the first, so I guess you need to ask people, first of all, how long have you been doing this?
Mm,
You know, there are two kinds of people in this world. There
mhm,
are wedding people, we are
mhm.
wedding people, and then there are not wedding people. If you are a wedding person, you're still bopping out, 20 years later, you're still getting misty-eyed behind the camera for your clients 20 years later. If you're not a wedding person, it's too hard. It's too
Mhm,
hard. You're not going to stay with it.
mm,
And it's too hard.
mm,
So that's one thing. Ask how long someone's been doing it.
mhm,
I would say, one thing to be wary of, if someone is charging so little that they're losing money on every event, that there's a very real chance that they will burn out and
mhm.
possibly burn out and you haven't gotten your pictures or your video. And
Oh no.
I mean, if you book 100 weddings in a year
Mhm,
at $1,000 a wedding, that's $100,000. But if you're losing money on every single one, you're
mm,
still losing money. And that's where you hear of photographers who burn out and you can't reach them and people don't know where they are and they're on the, people are on the Facebook groups. Does anybody know where so and so is?
mm,
And you even hear really sketchy stories about, photographers opening studios under different names.
mm,
Um, so that's really important. You want to look at someone who's not going to burn out, who kind of has the structure of the business. They have the insurance and the backup gear,
mhm,
um, and so there's that. The other thing too, I would look for is to find out. There's trends and everything, right?
mhm,
Wedding trends, and the most recent trend that kind of came and went was sort of light and airy wedding photos versus dark and moody wedding photos. And these were
mhm,
like Photoshop and Lightroom sets, and everybody wanted dark and moody or they wanted light and airy.
mhm,
when I was getting married, it was this weird aqua color. They called it like a cross-processing awkward color, which if you try to process, I'm going to show my old age. If you try to process film as slide film as regular negative film, it
Mm-hmm.
does this thing called cross-processing, and it gives you this very cool sort of otherworldly aqua-y, yellowy color.
Hmm.
And that was really popular.
Hmm.
And when my sister got married, spot color was really popular, where the whole thing is in black and white, and then just the flowers are in color.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so there's these trends that come and go.
Mm-hmm.
And I have always shot in a true to color style. This is partly me as a photojournalist. I do provide a lot of photos in both color and black and white.
Mm-hmm.
That's also me as a photojournalist because brides typically wear white, grooms typically wear black. And so by putting it in black and white, you're really seeing more of the emotion and capturing more of the moment. So at
Mm-hmm.
your wedding, one of my favorite photos is a big dip during the dance, and you've got the
Mm-hmm.
clouds all around you. And I love that in black and white because it really isolates the romance of that moment. Not that you're, I guess your brother, you were wearing a purple suit. Not that your purple suit and your brother's purple suit weren't awesome, but in black and white, the purple kind of falls away and it's about, the way you're holding the woman you love.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so you want to be careful of those trends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you want your wedding, I mean, for me, you want to remember what it looked like, what
Mm-hmm.
it smelled like, who was there. And I think True to Color is actually coming back now,
Mm-hmm.
um, but which I never left. Um, but you don't want your photos to look like, the seven most downloaded Photoshop actions of 2026.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to look for your style.
Mm-hmm.
If you like things that are timeless, if you like things that are elegant, if you love, listen, if you love light and airy, be a light and airy bride. Do it. If you love dark and moody, there's people that are still shooting it. Do it. That's their portfolio. But I think with weddings, we all have to kind of like have a perspective where
Mm-hmm.
within 10 years you're going to be like, oh, they were aqua and yellow in 2010. Yes, they were. And in 20 years your kids are like, oh, mom, this is so, cringe, whatever. Look at
This
your
is so
yeah, like
2026.
look at your 80s poofy shoulders, mom. And then by your 40th anniversary, you're just sort of that was the style then, sweetie. And then by your 50th anniversary, you're like, that was vintage. And the brides are like, I want to wear my grandmother's dress.
Yes,
But
exactly.
20 years before that, 30 years before that, you would have been like 80s cringe. So I think it's important to know that there are trends in weddings
Mm-hmm.
and that you're gonna want them. You're gonna get caught up in them. The color my wedding year was chocolate brown with an accent color.
Hmm.
That's just what it was.
Yeah.
So yep, that's what I did, and I have that perspective of okay, this is what we did in the early 2000s. And so I think one being aware of trends.
Mm-hmm.
You also want to ask to see a full event from
Mm-hmm.
a photographer. You don't want to just see their portfolio where they had 10, two great shots from 10 weddings.
Mm-hmm.
You want to see their versatility. So when my clients come to me right on the website, there's a being a clients button, and
Mm-hmm.
it's 10 years of full events. And you can go through and see 800, 1,000 pictures of events.
Mm-hmm.
You can see your venue. And you don't always need, I see a lot, like I want a photographer with experience at my venue.
Mm.
That's not always necessary because there's only so many combinations that these things happen in, right? So there's church wedding, then like hotel ballroom, or
Mm-hmm.
there's, beach wedding and then, white tent reception.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've been around long enough, you're like sort of like like, okay, yes, I have done a church wedding and I have done a hotel ballroom. And it doesn't really matter so much which hotel ballroom you're going to or
Mm-hmm.
which Catholic church you're in, because they all have sort of the same qualities.
Mm-hmm.
Even Catholic churches, there's kind of two kinds. There's sort of the cathedral setup, which is where my sister got married at Boston College. And then there's where I went to church as a kid, and it's more of a like Catholic church in the round, and they tend to have like honey colored wood. And
Mm-hmm.
knowing how to shoot in that very dark cathedral or knowing how to shoot with that honey colored wood takes specific skills
Mm-hmm.
so that the color is, natural and the pictures aren't too dark. Um, but if you're like, I'm getting married in a Catholic church, I've got experience with both kinds. I'm cool.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if you're getting married under the Brooklyn Bridge or you're getting married on the beach, we're outside, we're by a body of water, you know. So you want to see a photographer's full event. You
Mm-hmm.
want to see everything they've shot. You want to ask two, and this is an interesting thing with magical memories. You want to ask, who is the photographer coming to my wedding?
Okay.
And if you're watching this, it's probably because Steve told you to, because I'm coming to your wedding. Um, I hope so. I'm not as old as your mom. Um, but yeah, and so sometimes when you see a really attractive price,
Mhm,
it is sort of a photo studio that is maybe run out of like Indianapolis, and they
mhm,
have little sort of satellites everywhere.
mhm,
And you'll usually get the sales pitch.
mhm,
And sales pitch is usually a photographer. Maybe they're at a wedding, show,
mhm,
and they say, "Oh, it'll probably be me. I'm not sure, but blah blah blah." Well, the guy who's showing off his portfolio and selling weddings for this company on a Saturday is not the person out shooting the wedding.
mhm,
Um, and I think, that personality mesh is so important.
mhm,
Your photographer is the person who has the most access to you on your wedding day, you and your wedding party, and your DJ has the most access to your guests. So
mhm,
I think if you're going to have two vendors that you choose very carefully for their personality, you
mhm,
need to think about who's going to be with me all day. Is she going to be a witch on wheels who makes my grandma cry, during photos?
mhm.
Or, is it the DJ who's going to walk around like, who wants to sing a love song for the bride and groom? And if that's not the vibe you want, that is not the vibe you want.
Yeah.
So you need to make sure, that you kind of like the vibe of everyone that's there.
Mhm.
Of course, like one thing all of us wedding people, right? We love those horror stories. We all do, right? And there's a very popular photographer in our market
Oh.
who on the day of the wedding will go to Home Depot and pick up a guy standing outside Home Depot, waiting to be picked up for like a construction job, give him a button-down shirt, and bring him to your wedding as your second photographer, and basically telling you, I know, I'll tell you offline who it is.
Spill the tea.
The tea.
Oh boy.
And they basically just want him to be seen holding a camera and walking around. And that's not what you're looking for with the second photographer. That's another question for your photographer. Do you need two photographers?
That was gonna be one of my questions as well. You've been saying things, and I keep looking down because I keep writing myself little notes for you. So
Yeah, cool.
that's a great next step. I mean, do you need a second photographer? Is that a necessity? What's the benefit? The downside?
Sure. So I recommend a second photographer in four instances.
Okay.
One, if you have more than 175 people.
Okay.
So my goal is to make sure everyone is pictured in some way,
Hmm.
whether we go table to table,
Hmm.
which is a trend that's really out, and I hate doing that. I'm not gonna lie, because I feel like it's like bad waitress time. Like everyone's just put the like lobster ravioli and truffle sauce in their mouth, and I have to be like, "Hi, everyone." We all have to stand up now and take a picture. I feel like a bad waitress, like walking up just as you've put
But
food in your mouth.
there is a way of doing it. So
Which is the way you did it at your wedding.
which is a trend actually. Speaking
It's
of
a trend.
trends,
It's super fun. I love it. Couples, you should do this.
yeah,
We'll talk about that in a minute.
sure.
But okay, so 107. So I want to have everybody documented in some way.
Hmm.
And if they do add on like your photo booth package or even your 360 video package, pretty
Hmm.
much those things are so fun. You'll have everybody documented. But I
Hmm.
feel like it's very important to have everybody pictured in some way.
Hmm.
So one way is the tables, or Angie's your bad wait first time. The second way is the trend where the DJ plays a song
Hmm.
and the bride and groom sit in the middle. You guys did this. And they have the length of the song for everybody to get together in the groups they want to get together in and
Hmm.
come out and pose with you. And I like this because it's not just table four. Like
Hmm.
you're like hopefully the song is a long one, like Bohemian Rhapsody or something. Because your college friends
Or
all
just
have a
play it twice.
yeah, so play it all. And they say you only have until this song to get photographed with the bride and groom. And hopefully, like your college friends all get together, your coworkers all get together, and then they run out into groups that make sense.
Hmm.
And then, so one, if you want everybody pictured, there's a couple of
It's called a photo dash, is what I believe. At
photo
least what I
dash.
call
I
it.
love the photo dash.
So
It's
yeah.
hilarious. I hate the bad waitress group photos. And then, but anyway, so I'm getting ahead of myself. So one, if you have more than 175 people, you might
Hmm.
need somebody else to cover you.
Hmm.
Two, if you are at a venue that has two dramatically different viewpoints. So,
Mm.
like, you're in a Catholic church and you have the choir loft, and you want the, like, how do you solve the problem, like Maria shot from The Sound of
Hmm.
Music. All my Catholic girlies who want chapel length veil, you all know what I mean. Where you want that shot overhead of you going up the aisle with the long
Hmm.
train. And then you need a photographer who's like boots on the ground, right? Like I love
Hmm.
the fourth, I love the fourth, I love the fourth pew on the aisle, because you can get people coming and going. And so you have your person down there getting those important shots you can't
Hmm.
miss. You also have the overhead view. So if you have two perspectives, two, if you had pictures of the bride and groom getting ready with their respective wedding parties, and you
Hmm.
are in two dramatically different places, and
Mm.
I don't mean like at the Briarcliff Manor where the men are in the room with the orange, cigar smoking room, and the women are with the awesome vintage pink couch.
Yep.
I mean, one of you is in an apartment in Queens, and somebody else is at, a hotel in Tarrytown.
Hmm.
So if you want pictures of getting ready, both parties getting ready, and you're dramatically different places, you
Hmm.
need to. And then the last thing, we can talk a little bit about the first look because I love it so much. And I'm like the first look evangelist. I want everybody to
I
do this.
am 100% the same way.
Yep. But if you don't want to do a first look, if you want to
Hmm.
kick it traditional,
Hmm.
and you don't want him to see you before you go down the aisle, you have to use your cocktail hour to take all of your posed photos.
Hmm.
And if you also want coverage of cocktail hour, you're going to need a second photographer.
Hmm.
And I always tell people, listen, I would love to take your money. I would love to take your money. And, not really. But I don't want you to have more than what you need. And
Hmm.
some people, Steve Richard, have an entire team of photographers at their wedding. I mean, they've got video. There was at least four of us, two videographers, two photographers, at least four of us.
I think there ended up being six.
Wow, that's a lot. That's a
Six.
lot.
Yeah,
Oh,
two videographers, main shooter, second shooter for both photo and video, and then I had a behind the scenes team.
listen,
But
I love
that's
it.
because I wanted, how often do you get shot doing what you do? So, I can now showcase you in action doing the capturing of the thing that you do.
Folks, if he has shown me in action, you need to know that I bought less baggy pants. Um, I saw the pictures of me in action at his wedding, and I was like, I'm going to need to buy some new pants, because they were so baggy. Uh, You might also want to ask photographers, like, what do you wear? Which is, on
Mm,
one hand, like an insulting question,
mhm,
because if you're really a professional, like, what do you think I'm gonna, okay, but sometimes people just show up in like flannel shirts and jeans. And,
mhm.
I think we always kind of go for vendor black. You always kind of want to
Yeah.
sort of fade into this, fade in. So yes, it was like the pictures of me taken from behind in Steve's wedding, and I was like, I gotta go black pants shopping. Um, But yeah, I mean, and you want to ask them, you can tell. I think you can tell by watching this podcast. I'm really passionate about this. You can
Mhm,
tell talking to Steve, he's really passionate about this.
mhm,
And so you want to be able to hear, that passion in their voice. You want to make sure vibe with the person that's going to be with you that day. You
mhm,
want to make sure that they have backup gear in case, your air conditioner eats their stereo. And you want to make sure, that they can really, I guess my goal is, I always tell people, my goal is to go into every wedding. I have
mhm,
this super detailed document, um, with
mhm,
all of the important phone numbers and the addresses
mhm,
and a schedule that's down to 5-minute increments, a VIP roster. So I know
mhm.
when when it says I want a photo with Carol, that it means like your Aunt Carol, who's your godmother, and not Carol from your mom's book club. I want to know which Carol I'm looking for. I want
Mhm,
to have a VIP roster. I want to have a shot list.
mhm,
And my goal is to come up that day and know who, what, where, and when to take pictures.
mhm,
And your job is to show up looking super fine and to get
mhm,
married.
mhm.
So, you definitely want to ask someone, do they have anything like that? Or are
Mhm.
they just rolling with
The punches.
yeah, are they just kind of going with the flow? But then they don't
Mhm,
know, they never asked who's your favorite cousin, and
mhm,
one question, that I always ask, you don't make the same mistake twice. Are there any recent divorces or
mhm,
deaths in the family that I need to know about?
mhm.
And I can't even talk about this without every time I think about this, I have to like put my fingers in my ears and go like la 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 to like block everything. But they filled out their survey, and then the mother of the groom passed away between the survey and the wedding, and they
Oh
did.
no.
And his mom wasn't there. So my shot list was like groom with mom, and I kept like calling this out, and there was something weird happening, but I was like, I don't know what's happening. And so like finally, like, oh, the mother of the bride had to pull me, look at my face, pull me aside and tell me.
Oh no.
But again, if you can't see me, I can't see you, so this didn't really happen. Um,
I mean,
but
it's not your fault. You know, how would you know?
I mean, but I needed to stop it. Like I needed to
Yeah.
stop doing it like
Mm.
5 minutes before. Um, so, but I haven't made that mistake. I haven't made that mistake.
Oh no.
And you also want to see a really, really thorough contract. That's really important. My
Mm-hmm.
sister's a contract attorney. She helped me work on mine, and for years it had things about like um, what happens in the case of, hurricane, venue catches fire, church is
Mm-hmm.
not available, civil insurrection, pandemic, act of God. And I was
When would
like,
that have ever happened?
right. And then 2020 was like, hold my beer. Because, like, there's not going to be a civil insurrection on Route 87, like getting to the Grandview in Poughkeepsie. Like, what? Yeah, yeah, yeah. And so, especially the pandemic thing, if
Yes.
post-pandemic they don't have a clause on the circumstances, you should know exactly what you pay,
Mm-hmm.
when, under what circumstances you get your money back, and under what circumstances like you can sue. So when I was at the Miami Herald, I did a story about a fancy, fancy, fancy wedding venue on A1A Beachfront Avenue, Miami Beach. They turned the air conditioning on, and this is so Florida. A bunch of palmetto bugs just fell out of the air conditioning unit, and that's, in case you don't know, flying roaches. And palmetto bugs is such a nice way to say flying roach. And I mean, it was icing, it was everywhere, it was horrible. And this, six-figure wedding was ruined by falling roaches. And the bride and groom were trying to sue the venue for the pain and suffering of having their wedding ruined by, roaches
Bugs.
raining from the sky. Which I get it. I get it. But, most vendors that you work with are going to have a contract where it limits their liability, where
Mm-hmm.
you could maybe sue them for or get your money back to what you paid, but you can't sue them for pain and suffering.
Damages. Yeah.
For that. So you're going to look for a really thorough contract.
Mm-hmm.
And then the reviews too.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I think if you have a photographer who's running a scam or who punks out and steals people's photos, like it's going to be all over the Facebook groups. It's going to be all over,
Mm-hmm.
the internet. And so, you want to look at how many 5 out of 5 reviews do you have, Steve?
Um, I think it's like 95%, 5 out of 5. I think I have one bad review on social, well, I have one bad review on like the Knot, and then
Okay.
I think it's like 5% on
Again, if you
Google.
haven't made a mistake, you've been in business long enough.
Yeah.
But yeah, I got 78 5 out of 5 reviews. There is
Yeah.
one 4 out of 5 review, which I take very personally. But if you look on the Knot, Wedding Wire, Google Business, and Facebook and Yelp, I only have people aren't using Yelp for wedding planning. But I have all 5 out of 5s except for one, which is 4 out of 5. And I'm really proud of that.
Mm-hmm.
And they go all the way back to 2008 when the Knot was really big deal. I have a lot to say about the Knot. Oh no, what if the Knot's watching? I love you, the Knot. Let's just put it this way for brides and grooms.
Yep.
If something is free,
Mm-hmm.
you are not the customer, you are the product being sold.
Mm-hmm.
So like vendors pay a lot of money to be listed on some of those sites, and with the promise that couples planning weddings will come to you.
Mm-hmm.
We're paying.
Yeah.
You're being sold to us. So that's just something about the wedding industry. If you're
Well,
not,
it's like every industry. I mean, you get Google Maps for free, and like why you don't actually get it for free. Your restaurants are paying for your
right,
information.
sure.
So
Like, is it like I send my kids to a really lovely summer camp and they talk every day. They come home, they end the day with a free popsicle. Like, is it free?
well, that's more building
Built
rapport.
in, right? Like you get a
Yeah.
free bottle of champagne when you get your USB drive
Yes.
from me.
Yes, exactly.
It's all
Exactly.
part of the cost of doing business. Okay, like I said, it takes me, if a picture's worth 1,000 words, it takes me 1,000 words to describe one picture. Hit me. What else? What else should we talk about?
Well, I have a list now of all these different kinds of questions. I mean,
Yeah.
you spoke about the equipment backing it up, things like that, but I think something that tends to come up a lot also is people's concerned about like the actual equipment that's being used. Like, are you using Canon? Are you using Sony? Or, is that something that a normal day-to-day client should worry about if they're hiring a professional?
No, I mean, the nice thing about photographs is that you can make a beautiful picture in so many different ways and you can do it at any different level.
Mm,
So if you want to get an old, pinhole camera or a Brownie camera that Kodak produced, the first cameras they produced, you could technically, like photography is a relationship between
mm,
light and time. And so, you can make photographs that way. You can make photographs with cell phones. I would be very,
mhm,
very, very wary of a professional photographer who only works on their cell phone. I
mm,
love my iPhone. It's great. I actually, for the first time, and I thought my parents were going to have a heart attack. For the first time, I went on vacation with only my iPhone this year, and I did not lug my full set of professional gear. And because the iPhone's that good. And I think content creators offer a really
mm,
valuable service. I think having a bridesmaid, I don't like when venues do it. Some venues have like the bridal attendant standing behind you with the bride's phone, taking pictures over
mhm,
your shoulder. And I don't like that. Not because I mind so much what's happening over my shoulder, because I know
mhm.
I'm doing good work and I'm going to deliver the best. But I feel like then the bridal attendant isn't attending to the bride
Uh,
as
okay.
much that they should, but I think a content creator can do amazing stuff with their phone, but I would never hire a wedding photographer that did not carry the official equipment.
Mhm,
As for Sony, Camera, Nikon, Canon, they all do a great job at this point. I mean, throughout the years, for a little while, Nikon had better advancements, and then Canon came along and topped them, and then Nikon tried to catch up and didn't, and then now they have.
mm,
So I think it doesn't matter. I mean, I'll be honest. So the big thing right now is everyone's talking about these mirrorless cameras. They're very
mhm,
light. I don't shoot with one yet
mhm,
because my 5D Mark IV and my 5D Mark III are just power horse cameras. They're just amazing. They do amazing work. They do an amazing job, and I need to upgrade. But I have a sense of light and time and
mhm.
um, color correction and emotion, and that with photojournalism they call it the decisive moment. That's like a fancy term that goes all the way back to like the 60s with the inception of news journalism. But if you can capture that decisive moment,
Mm,
that you don't, it doesn't matter so much what you carry, except that you do need like I have a full frame camera,
mhm.
which means I could print large enough up to being a billboard. In
Hmm.
fact, you ready for a flex, Steve? Um, One of my freelance clients is the Great Jack-o'-lantern Blaze in
Mhm.
Town, which is a thing. One of the billboards is my photo. So modest. So the same camera that I'm bringing to your wedding is a quality that can shoot billboards.
Mhm.
So yeah. So
No, that's great. That's like I said, I think people wonder because they don't. I mean, that's unfortunately that's just one of those things that you don't know. So from what I gathered from what you're saying and interpreting it, it's not necessarily about the tool as much as it's about how you utilize it. Is that
absolutely.
like cool? All right. All right. So like I said, I've been taking notes. This is the first time I think I've actually had to take notes on what was said, because you're just giving so many great tidbits, and I really want to dive into more of it.
Sure.
Um, One thing I hear a lot, and we've talked a lot about brides and weddings, but you
Mhm.
shoot all different kinds of milestone events.
Yeah.
So how this is more universally, I wrote it down as a bride, but how do you handle either brides or maybe bat mitzvah girls that are uncomfortable being photographed? Because I hear that a lot. I don't want to do any portraits, or I don't want to do any formal photos. I'm not comfortable with that. Maybe somebody just said take pictures. How do you handle that as a photographer?
I tell them that they're well on their way to a promising career as a photographer, because I hate being photographed. I know the irony. I hate it. I hate being photographed. I'm super uncomfortable with it.
Mm.
And little tidbit, the person behind the camera is never in pictures. So you're well on your way. Contact me for an unpaid internship. You're well on your way. to a promising career.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, so how do I handle that? I think in life in general, you get out what you put in.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm pouring, and this is true for all circumstances, but if I'm coming into a wedding day and I am coming with a good sense of humor and flexibility and competence and capability, if I'm coming in projecting confidence, cooperation, humor, what I will get back from everyone is
Mm-hmm.
cooperation, humor, that people will, you kind of get out what you put in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very like, huh, but it's really understanding people's energy and sort of seeing what they need and then adjusting yourself accordingly. So um so I shoot all the milestones of people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
With Magical Memories, we've done bat mitzvah, wedding, 75th birthday,
Mm-hmm.
and I love shooting all the milestones in people's lives. Again, back to the journalism. When I was at the newspaper, I was there for the best days of people's lives and the
Mm-hmm.
worst days of people's lives.
Mm-hmm.
And like I'm there for when you walk across the stage at graduation, and I was there when there was a drunk driving incident after graduation, and the best
Mm-hmm.
day and the worst day. Um, the nice thing about this is I'm only there for the best days. Um, this is the best day ever.
Oh.
And so I really want everyone to, you know, look at their pictures and say, wow, look how happy I am. I
Mm-hmm.
think for the younger girls, for the bat mitzvah girls, it's very interesting. Like my goal for the bar and bat mitzvahs is that I want to please everyone on multiple levels. So a lot of times the grandparents are paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a certain expectation. They want an album. They have albums for their own kids. They want a fancy album.
Mm-hmm.
Mom and dad, not so into it anymore, but they are the kind of couple, they had the 2 to 3 hour video from their wedding. So that's important to them. And then, there's the kids who, they want something Instagrammable. They want a highlight video. They want something, honestly, like they're 13. They want to stand out from their friends.
Mm-hmm.
And, some of the girls that come to me feel really awkward and they're like, my pictures are just never going to be as pretty as Stacy Goldfarb's. That's not her real name. And I'm like, we're gonna make something just as pretty as Stacy Goldfarb. Challenge accepted. I'm gonna do some smoke bombs, girly. Like yes, you are. You're gonna love the way you look, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna make it happen. And a lot of that is just, I think you can hear things from a photographer then better than you can hear them from your mom on your bat mitzvah day.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes when I'm talking to my mom, I feel like I can still feel my retainer in my mouth. Like, you just don't understand, mom. And so if I'm working with a girl on her temple pictures and I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
sweetie, I can see your bra a little bit. We're going to straighten your crown. There we go. But if a mom is like, you know, daughter, your bra is showing. It's like, leave me alone. And so I try to sort of put the energy in that I want to get out and I want to
Mm-hmm.
please grandma and I want to please parents and I want to please the teenage girl because part of the fun of bar and bat mitzvah photos later is you cringe, right? You cringe looking at you're looking at your braces and that's part of the fun. But I want something that they can be proud of, that they want
Mm-hmm.
to share with friends. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's bar and bat mitzvahs. For the brides, it's so interesting because your bride is very uncomfortable being photographed. Um, I actually always recommend that people, when they hate being photographed, they do an engagement session. And it's counterintuitive.
Mm-hmm.
I hate being in pictures. Why would I be in more pictures? Um, but I think, it gives me a chance to work with you and see, like, is somebody a blinker? That's very valuable for me to know. If you are a blinker in the photos, I'm going to be taking way more because I know that I'm going to be trying to
Mm-hmm.
move open eyes into photos. A lot of what we do for both wedding photography and engagement photography is really beautiful and cool, but also unnatural.
Mm-hmm.
We don't really give each other piggyback rides by lighthouses unless we are in an engagement session, right? Like we don't really do dips and twirls and spins in a botanical garden wearing,
Excuse me. Speak for yourself.
guitar count. I got married in a botanical garden actually, and there's a couple dips and twirls. So I'm only just realizing that. That was an interesting subconscious thing that just happened. But there's certain like lifts and things that you can
Sure.
do, twirls, and it's so much better to practice them
Mm-hmm.
beforehand. And there's like real life walking and there's engagement session walking, right? And I had a groom that said, I feel kind of like a douche. And I was like, you're doing it right. If you feel a little bit like a douche, like if you feel a little bit silly, if you feel a little bit like what is happening, then you're
Over the
doing,
top.
that's for the men. That's for the men. Um,
Okay.
yeah. Yeah. So, but like, and I also, I did some pictures for in a hospital for an Irish couple, so not my
Mm,
Scottish woman, but she's going to come out and it might sound more Scottish. But I was taking pictures, and the parents really wanted photos of the brand new baby with the dad's dad, with the grandpa.
mm-hmm.
And I was having him hold it, and like, you want to see both their faces. So I was having him kind of take the baby and like hold him here. My cat's there. I'm thinking about getting my cat to demonstrate this. And he said, like, I feel like a freaking idiot. I feel like a freaking idiot. And I was like,
Uh-huh.
you're doing it right. You're doing it right. But I also think, when it comes to wedding photos, at no time in your life are you in a custom gown that's been fitted for you, hair and makeup that you've practiced and personally and intentionally chosen the person who's doing it for you. You're in your best. My foundation undergarments could have like my foundation undergarments on my wedding day could have like ruled a small country. It just needed some like batteries, like AA batteries, rah, rah, and it could have like had a coup d'etat. So I was
Uh,
never more tan. My teeth were never whiter. My
mm-hmm.
eyebrows were never sculpted. My nails were never prettier. And my husband and I, we vowed to love each other. We love each other's bodies now and as we age and as we
Mm.
change. And my wedding photographer was like, the changes start tomorrow. Like the caterpillar brows are coming back. And so when you do
Uh,
so much time on how you look on that day, you're gonna look gorgeous.
mm-hmm.
You're gonna look gorgeous. And you should have someone who can really reflect that. And I think, now everyone's looking at Instagram,
Mm-hmm.
and everybody wants to sort of have what they've already seen, and that's such a powerful
Mm.
thing as a visual artist. But you want to look like you, the best possible version of you, but you want to look like you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also of the opinion that if your great grandchildren display any photos of you at all, it will be your wedding photo.
Mm.
So these are the pictures you are immortal in.
Mm.
So you should love the way you look. And that means you need extra time for hair and makeup.
Mm.
Because if those false eyelashes are going off in a drag queen direction that you did not see coming, if you hate them, you will hate your photos. You will.
Mm.
And, I can do some magic, but if you don't like your makeup, if you don't like your hair, if you feel like, you need more blending, if your chin is, orange
One
and
color.
white, you need to love the way that you look, and you
Mm-hmm.
need to put an extra time for that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so that you love your photos.
Beautiful. Love that's really great. I love that. Um, Still talking technically a little bit. You
Yeah.
mentioned content creator, which is
Hmm.
kind of I mean, it's a new thing that's come out over the last couple of years.
Hmm.
Um, for all the people that are, my age, which I'm not I don't like to say I'm not, I feel like I'm getting old, but like, content creator wasn't a thing when I was younger.
Sure. Sure.
It was for my wedding, but not like a normal thing, like, so for everybody that's coming into this, it's like, what the heck? What does that mean? Like, is this somebody, a random person with an iPhone that, why do I need to be spending all the money on it? Or is it worth it? Can I just have, my cousin and take some pictures with their iPhone? Or is that like, what's the difference between that and my photographer or videographer? Why is that different? What's the value in it, or what is it? I guess in the start.
I think that the photographer and the videographer are telling a long form story.
Mm,
And I think the content creator is just creating like a reel, a highlight reel.
mm,
And it's really fun to walk out of there and have like just bing, 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 bing. There's a couple content creators I really like.
mm,
And it's, well, let's see. I had the full videography experience. I watched the 2 hour cut once, the 20-minute cut once, and I've watched the 3 minute highlight reel every year on my anniversary without fail.
mm,
And so I think that photographers and videographers are telling the long form story. And I think the content creator is sort of giving you that highlight reel.
mm,
And I think it's really fun to walk away with that highlight reel. I think it's fun to share on social media so that people who aren't there, they can just see because they're not going to watch your 20-minute version. And so I think it's really fun to have.
mm-hmm.
But I think that the value of videography is that it records the sound, right? I mean, that's
Mm,
goes without saying. But you really want to hear the speeches, the
mhm,
speeches, the vows, you'll never get that back. And I love some of my favorite videographers. They'll have the bride and groom write a letter to each other, and then they'll
mhm,
read it out loud and use that letter and as like they'll underscore like you can hear the bride and groom talking about how much they love each other
mhm,
under footage of them physically saying their vows. So I think you lose that with content creation. You don't hear
mhm,
speeches, you don't hear the vows,
mhm,
um, which I think is something that content creation just can't do. I
mhm,
think one value that the content creator can bring is that if they really have their finger on the pulse of the trends, if you have a lot of TikTok trends or
mhm,
things that you want to make a version of on your own wedding day,
mhm,
I'll tell you, okay, T. Had a wedding, super into TikTok,
mhm,
and really wanted some of the trends at the time was like you learn a dance.
mhm,
You're all dressed up in your, robes and hair and makeup, and you do like a dance.
mhm,
And then there's a transition, and when you take it back, you're doing the same dance, but now you're dressed as the bride and other things.
mhm,
Okay, here's what that actually means. That means that at some point, someone choreographed a dance and sent it to the bridesmaid group chat, and you were all supposed to learn it, right? And then, you get through the hair and makeup and it's all done. And somebody always, my sister redid her hair 3 times on my wedding day.
mhm,
There's always somebody who takes a little longer,
uh-huh,
or whatever. And now it's time we have to wait for so and so like to finish up so we can take the picture, so we can do the dance. Now you all do the dance. And let's say you're not a dancer or you didn't learn the dance or you were, I don't know, passing your nursing exams and didn't have time to do a dance.
mhm,
And everyone gets mad at you because you're not dancing, right? And then you all have to get dressed. And I think that the moment that a bride sees herself in her wedding dress is the
mhm,
moment that shit gets real. Up until this point, you didn't realize, or you don't really see yourself as a bride until you are in that dress. And so now you've put it on, and
mhm,
everybody's put on their dresses with all of the, wait, is this my bridesmaid dress? Is this your bridesmaid dress? Wait, no, mine's supposed to be this, but I got it altered, right? So like everyone's wearing the wrong dress, people, whatever. And they're finally all dressed. Everyone's kind of hot and sweaty. It's time to go see the groom. And now we have to do the dance again.
mhm,
And I had a bride who she really wanted like a boomerang of them standing in front of these letter balloons that said bride and
mhm,
throwing balloons so that, okay.
mhm, mhm.
And the bee was deflated.
Oh
So they
no.
stop, inflate the bee, run in front of it, throw the balloons, right? Look at the footage, see if it was right. No, it's not right. Hang on. No, it's not. Go back, blow up the bee, try it again. And I was just like, girl, you are hosting an $80,000 party today. Like, I love you.
Priorities, priorities.
I love you, but like, get dressed. And I think if, I think if, because, right? Because and this is an interesting thing. When it comes to your wedding photographer, I have a very specific time of day that I am in control of the timeline.
Mm,
And once that time is gone, it's gone.
mhm,
And then you're gonna, if you want those pictures, you either have to do them later during your cocktail hour, get pulled, but I have a very specific time set aside to do this. And if you spend that whole time inflating the bee balloon and throwing balloons around,
mhm,
or arguing over who didn't do the dance right, you're going to miss that time.
mhm,
And I don't want anyone to miss it because I
mhm,
don't have a time travel lens. But I think if you have a content creator there who knows, okay, we want to make the um, video where all four of us line up and all four of us are engaged and we're going to pass the bouquet so that we take the same footage at all four of our weddings and
mm,
all bride like I'm the bride with three bridesmaids and I pass it, and then at the next wedding we pass it, we stand in the same order and pass it. All of
mhm,
the brides who are planning their weddings right now, Steve, they know exactly what I'm talking about. I feel like
mhm.
you glazed over, but
No,
uh,
I got it. I know what you're talking about. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and if you have a content creator, she just can line you up.
Yep.
She can just line you up. She can just do it. She
Mhm.
kind of can be like while you're all getting stressed about the dance, she can pull like the newly minted past the bar lawyer who didn't have time to learn the frickin' dance, bridesmaid aside, and like, okay, look at it here. So I think that if you have trends like that, putting the content
Yes.
creator in charge is probably really valuable.
That's what I always tell people. When it comes to content creator, I say it depends on what you like, because people I feel like have been trading out videography, or I've been misunderstanding what the difference between the two is. I want a videographer or a content creator. Well, they're two very different things with very different purposes. So I think
Right.
that you mentioned it earlier, so I was really glad that I just wanted to kind of dive into that a bit.
And I
Um,
think too, with everything with weddings, you have to decide what your priorities are.
hmm
So some people's priorities are they are musicians. I had a couple, they were both opera singers at the Metropolitan Museum of Art, and they had so many friends. And a big part of their night was live music, and then
hmm
having a world famous actor stand up and sing to them. That was
hmm
really important to them.
hmm
Music was not important to me. It just, I mean, having it there and loud enough and fine, and I was super glad when the speakers started working again. But it didn't matter to me. Some people are total foodies and
Sure.
they really want, the uh, top shelf liquor and the, raw bar display with
hmm
caviar. Some people are really into photography and videography and
hmm
their photo reel is always full.
hmm
And you have to decide, some people want a rock and dance party. Other people, that's not their jam. They'd rather have a
hmm
beautiful dinner party, and you have to decide what your priorities are.
hmm
Uh, so if your priority is in videography, then that's where you put your budget.
hmm
If it's not, then you put your budget somewhere that is a priority.
That makes sense. Yeah. You've spoken a lot about timing now. I have
Yeah,
a twofold question. I would like to get into
my back is hurting. Wait, I'm gonna get resettled.
we've
Sorry.
been talking for a while, so yeah, I'm sure your leg's probably falling asleep at this point. So I first thing is there a good length of time for a wedding, or let's hit the milestone. So like a wedding, a mitzvah, a sweet 16, how long should somebody be expecting to have a photographer for, ideally? And I mean, because I know, and I'll kind of give my little caveat to this is that I see on back to these Facebook groups, because it's a lot. Yeah, we all see it there. Especially if you're watching this, if you're watching this video, you're probably on Facebook. So being a Facebook person,
Right.
we see a lot of people like, oh, I only want them for, the first, 3 hours of it, or I only need them for half the wedding because they're trying to save money, which is understandable. But what's is there a proper length, and is it okay if it ends early?
Oh, that is a loaded question. I'm going to return to what I said earlier, where everything takes longer, costs more, and is infinitely more complicated than you ever imagined.
Okay.
And you have to just build in more time than you think. So,
hmm
like peeing in a wedding dress, I know this is something you've never thought about, Steve. Peeing in a wedding dress takes time. So, even being like, oh, we'll do the pictures all before the ceremony, right for that. I'll just, get a drink some water and go pee, and then we'll get married. And I'm like, you need to leave time for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I think most people have different packages, right?
Mm-hmm.
My basic package for weddings, collection four, if you will. It used to be called Just Shoot Me, which I thought was hilarious. And
Might be inappropriate.
I thought, well, all right. So I got Just Shoot Me. And then there was Gotcha Colored, and then there was Gotcha Covered, which is 8 hours. There was Day of Awesome, which was 10, and then
Mm,
there was Unicorns and Rainbows.
mm,
When I was rebranding, I was like, can I call Unicorns and Rainbows? Can I call that everything but the kitchen sink? And one of my mentors was like, collection one, collection two, collection three, collection four. And I was like, fine. So for 6 hours, for Just Shoot Me, I can pretty much get the last minute right as you walk down the aisle
mm-hmm.
to the end of your night, or I can get pictures taken beforehand and I'm leaving as soon as the cake cutting is done.
Mm-hmm.
And I always want to have more time, not less. I've only ever had people add time, not
Mm,
reduce, and anyone who's ever added time has never regretted it.
mm, mm-hmm.
My goal as your photographer is I want my agenda or the things I need to do for you to impose as little as possible on the day.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make sure you have enough time for everything. Um, how do I want to put this? So it also depends on your venue.
Mm,
So um, the Briarcliff Manor. Hi, Perry. We keep talking about how awesome you are. They have this down to a science.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing, the things there go off without a hitch, except for the couple who gets hitched. Um, and they have a very specific sort of flow for the night.
Mm-hmm.
There's Jimmy, the maitre d'. We love Jimmy. He'll be the one who helps you cut your cake and make sure that you have the plate and everything. Shout out to Jimmy. But they very much have an order with their chef and how they do things in dessert service. And I
Mm-hmm.
think that people say that the photographer can leave as soon as the cake cutting is done,
Mm-hmm.
because that is a sort of a social cue to the guests that, you know, that the festivities for the night, the formal festivities have come to a close. And now it is
Mm-hmm.
polite to, you know, offer your well wishes and leave.
Mm-hmm.
So if you try to do the cake cutting too early so your photographer can document it, then you might have guests leaving early.
Mm-hmm.
And if you have guests leaving early, on one hand, it might be the old people, and you're sort of, thank you for coming. And what you really want to do is like rock out on the dance floor and do what I call the armpit dancing. You know, you really might want to just thank you, old folks. You know,
Skedaddle.
have fun on the first shuttle that we booked for you to go back to the hotel. And the people who stay are the people you really want to be with.
Mm.
That's fair. But I think if the venue really has their A game, the way Briarcliff Manor does, and they have it very sorted out,
Mm-hmm.
you know, on dessert service, and when you're there, when we cut the cake, and when they start bringing out the little, they're like Zeppeli canapes. They're like little tiny Zeppelis, but they're gonna like a, I don't know, like a Swedish meatball.
Mm.
They know when they're gonna start frying those Zeppelis and running them out.
Mm-hmm.
So they really do not want to work with photographers that have to cut out early.
Mm.
Some venues don't care. Some of the
Mm-hmm.
venue factories, they don't care.
Mm-hmm.
Some so I always think you need more time. Okay, here's what I tell people. There is this concept of tokens. And this is actually, if you have anybody from this disability rights community, which is a community I'm pretty actively involved in, it's based on spoon theory, but tokens are a metaphor, right? As long as you have tokens, you can play the game of life. Tokens are a metaphor for energy, for the ability to cooperate, for the ability to cope, ability to change on a dime, to deal with problems that come up. And once you're out of tokens, you have to stop. You just can't play anymore. And I recommend that my couples plan enough time in their day that they have time to go get some tokens back. And different people get different things. Tokens give them different tokens. For me, drinking water, how many times have I drunk water in this podcast? I'm going to do it now.
Mm-hmm.
Drinking water gives me a lot of tokens back. Napping gives me a lot of tokens back. Not that I'm going to curl up in the middle of your wedding and take a nap, but I think for couples, taking time to eat, like if it's like, and certain things take up a lot of tokens. So if you are hot on your wedding day and you are in a beautiful ball gown, it just takes a certain amount of tokens to move around in this big dress, which you're already hot, but then you're also wearing foundation undergarments and crinolines. It just takes up a lot of tokens, right? Your photo time is one of the most token intensive parts of the day. And I try really hard to make it as smooth as I can for couples. But one of the things that really stresses people out is when people walk away. So your dad thinks, oh, I was in the photo with the bride, I was in the photo with my wife, I'm good. No, we need you in 5 minutes for the bride and groom with both parents, or the bride and groom with the bride's whole side. And like, where did dad go? And somebody knows. Is he smoking? I don't know. I'm gonna go get your dad. Are you really? Because I need you to be in the sibling photo. You're a groomsman. You shouldn't go get dad. Ah! And I can handle it, right? Any wedding day that I'm at, I put my big girl panties on. I'm here to play. But I see the bride and groom really start to lose, to just, they're just, you start to see it, you know. And when you're out of tokens, you have to eat something, you have to take an I love you break, you have to breathe, or you will get what I call, I don't want to offend the sensitive ears of your viewers, Steve. You will get a case of the fuck it's, where you're just like, fuck it. I don't even need the post photos. I don't even want to go to the fountain. Just fuck it, fuck it. And the problem with the fuck it's is that I don't have a time travel lens. This is your moment. This is your opportunity. The sun is setting. And so I want you to have all the tokens you need to get everything that you want,
Yep.
and enjoy your day and still remember it. So that's why I think the time schedule is so important because
Mhm.
you need to build in time to get your tokens back, and you need
Mhm.
to build in time for the fact that like your mom is just really going to want to go check the cocktail napkins. See, I can tell you, I have the craziest mother of the bride story ever.
Yeah,
Do you want,
let's
you
hear it.
want to hear
Yeah,
it?
yeah, yeah.
Okay, this is my own mom. Mommy, I'm with you. Okay. All right. I got married at the Hershey. I got married at the Hershey Gardens,
Okay.
in Hershey, Pennsylvania, because that's where I grew up.
Mhm.
And where I grew up, man, like a fancy wedding was like you rented out the fire hall and you had both like a tap Bud and Bud Light. Like that was fancy. And I did not want to have that in my hometown. And so I lived in New York and my husband and I were looking, and he's from Queens, so his parents had the like wedding factory kind of
Mhm.
vision of what
Mhm.
weddings were from out in Queens and Long Island. And and then my grandmother, who was half my heart, just wasn't able to go. And like 2 years before, she had flown to Boston for my sister's wedding, but she's like, I just can't make it. And so my husband was like, well, we're not getting married without Nanny. So we're
Mhm.
getting married in Pennsylvania. And we started to think about so much of wedding planning is you have an idea, a good
Mhm.
idea, you investigate the pros and cons of that idea, and you come up with another good idea. So we had a good idea. I wanted Whitby Castle and Rye.
Mhm.
Look at the pros and cons, you investigate another idea. So we ended up at the Hershey Gardens in Hershey, Pennsylvania. And they tell you when you book a wedding there, everywhere, please do not book a wedding until you have looked at the calendar year's Hershey Park Arena concert series calendar. Because if AC/DC is playing at the like, so for our New Yorkers, like Hershey Park Arena is like Jones Beach.
Mhm.
Like if
Mhm.
AC/DC is going to come through and play, the best concert I ever saw there was Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. Actually, it was an amazing concert. They can't tell AC/DC to be quiet, right?
Mhm.
So if you're a wedding and all you hear is this concert, there's nothing that they can do. Yeah, there's nothing you can do.
Mhm.
And so they tell you, the concert series gets scheduled, gets posted January 1st. Please
Mhm.
make sure. So my mom's hairdresser, her daughter got married in the same place the night before, and they did not check the concert
Ooh.
schedule, and AC/DC was playing. And
Literally AC/DC.
it was actually AC/DC. And tag them. Maybe they'll see this. And so they also did not rent. We had the ability for an extra couple $100 to rent the education center where you could
Mhm.
get dressed and use the bathroom as opposed to like the bathrooms the
The venue.
in the venue, right? Because it's a butterfly garden, it's a children's garden, it's a butterfly house. Like people come through the gardens and during the day,
Mhm.
and they're tourists and they use bathrooms and it's a big attraction. And they always like close the garden down at 4, and then
Mhm.
your ceremony, they usually have rules, has to be at 5.
Mhm.
And so my mom's hairdresser's daughter did not pay extra for the fancy bathroom,
Mhm.
and she did not pay attention to AC/DC schedule. And she was really nervous, and the toilets were overflowing. And I guess she had a nervous stomach, and it was a nightmare. So my mom gets her hair done at 6 o'clock in the morning. This
Mhm.
hairdresser is traumatized by her daughter's wedding the night before. My
Mhm.
mom is convinced that she's going to get there and find these overflowing bathrooms. So at 7:30 in the morning, my mom shows up at the garden. Remember, I'm getting married at 5. Shows up at the garden and is like, we've got to plunge these toilets right now. And the woman who's opening, is like, she's like, ma'am, I promise, like the garden opens at 10, physical plant will be here. We don't open the garden until things are regulation clean. I promise this won't affect your daughter's wedding. My mom drives to Home Depot, buys a plunger, and decides to plunge toilets herself in her mother of the bride dress.
Oh, God bless. That's dedication right there.
Everyone wants to help in the way
Yeah.
that they want to help. I do. And then she tore like the bodice that's open, and then there was poop on
Oh.
her shoes. And so she had to go to I don't know, buying poop, buying new shoes, and everyone's trying to keep this from me. Anyway, that took a lot of tokens out of my wedding day. That took a lot of tokens,
I
was
can
my
imagine.
mom. And yeah, that was her thing. Whatever. And it's such so well intentioned. She just wanted me to have a beautiful wedding.
Hmm.
And I love her dearly. And that story just really tells you everything you need to know about my mom. Um, but like
She
everyone has the
cares.
crazy mother of the bride story, and I'm like, mm-mm, mm-mm. Let me tell you about the toilets at the Hershey. So
Oh.
yeah, but I think you need to build in time for that. You need to build in time for someone's going to be late.
Mhm.
A flower girl's going to have a diaper blowout. a maid of honor is going to need to pump breast milk. You just need
Mm-hmm.
to build in time so that, and not everything can be up to you. And some people want to know about a wedding planner or a day of coordinator, if you can go with the event staff that's there. But not everything, you cannot answer questions. I had a wedding playbook because I was a wedding vendor, remember? So I had a wedding playbook. It was a binder, and it went to
Mm-hmm.
my friend Andrea, who was also a wedding vendor. She was
Mm-hmm.
the team captain that day. My mom was allowed to look at one, but she wasn't allowed to carry one on the wedding day. And, we had a basically like, what's the plan? What's the backup plan? And
Mm-hmm.
what do we do? So the plan is that the flowers are delivered to the hotel. What's the backup plan? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Catch up with them. Maybe they'll come to the garden. What do? We just enjoy the beautiful botanical garden around us. And if we have no flowers, we just say, look at the beautiful botanical garden. So, so yeah, so I think that the timeline and having your photographer there long enough, I never want people to be watching the clock and worrying about how their party's going for
Mm-hmm.
me. And I also have to hold a boundary. I can't just stay and give you the 10-hour
Yeah.
package for the 6-hour price. But I also don't want you opening cards in the middle of your reception trying to pay me to stay.
Mm-hmm.
I think it just is more relaxing for everyone, for the vendor for the caterer who's trying to put out the best timed coffee service
Mm-hmm.
and cake service, for the guests that you want to stay. The DJ wants your guests to stay,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You don't want to do cake cutting early for the photographer and then people leave,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know. I think more time than you need, but I
More
don't
time
know,
than you think you need.
more time than you think you need. Yeah.
Yeah. It's I really want to just touch and say that I agree 100% in the sense of the timing thing because it what people also don't realize for like as a DJ. So I mean I am not personally a photographer, but I am a DJ and being a DJ sitting there and being at a wedding and then when the photographer has to come up to you and they're like, "Oh, do you know when the cake cutting is scheduled for?" And like we work very meticulously because as we have all the planning forms and fortunately we have a client relations person who literally sits down and goes through timing with all of our brides ahead of time, make sure that's all set properly and stuff. So there's a lot of steps that we do to make sure that exactly what you're saying. But that's all good and stuff especially from the music side. If you have a photographer that comes in and now is like, oh, so we're gonna move all of this now to the first hour of the party because we have to leave. And that's tough because now you've scheduled it out in a way where as a flow wise you're like, all right, we're going to do the speeches at this point, we're going to do the dances because the dances help to get people on the dance floor, and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And so I think that that becomes very difficult as well if you mess with that flow. And if and the more important thing is if that is the case, make sure you communicate it to every vendor, not just to don't let the photographer surprise the DJ the day of.
I
So
think one of the things that's really awkward is that I can't say no to the bride and groom, and I can't say no to their families.
mm-hmm.
And so, um, one thing I always ask about is, are we going to try? So there's 4 photos, right? With the mother of the bride side, mother of the blah, 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 mother of the bride, father of the bride, mother of the groom, father of the groom. There's like 4 branches of the family tree, and especially post COVID, all of the Bouchards are here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to try and take a photo of all of us while we're here. And I have on my schedule, like, how important is this to you? Like, it has to happen. So help me. We have to try.
Mm-hmm.
Or we did this at my cousin's wedding. It was a nightmare. If someone's in the bathroom or at the bar, sucks to be them. They're not in the photo.
Mm.
Or we hate this and tell everyone, tell my mother we're not doing it. And usually there's one side of the family that always does it. So that branch of the family tree. And I always say, like, for fairness reasons, are we
Mm-hmm.
building in a time? Because I like to do it sort of at the end of dinner, but before the dancing starts. Just get that done, get it out of the way. Because I don't want to be pulling people out of the dance party. I don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody wants that. So, and they'll say, no, 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 we're just going to do it for the Burchards. There's not that many people coming from my mom's family. They don't care.
Mm-hmm.
We get to the wedding and they care very much. They saw the mother, the mother of the groom saw the mother of the bride get her photo, and now she wants her photo.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I have to say, like, I can't tell them no. And this isn't what I want, and I'm not adding this, and it's not on my shot list, and I tried to manage this, but we can't say no.
Mm-hmm.
And now I've got to mess up everybody's timeline. And like it's sort of coming at the wedding with the kind of energy when I got like, I too think this is a bad idea. I too do not want to do this.
Hmm.
And so, you have to kind of, it's a balance. It's a balance.
Hmm.
But I will say, you make one mistake one time, right? So I was at a baptism party with a different
Hmm.
DJ, not MME. And it also turned out, I guess, like the bride and groom had gotten married at the groom's church in the South, and it was like no dancing. It was like a cake and punch thing, and they didn't believe
Hmm.
in dancing. And the mother of the groom did not get any of the family photos that she wanted. And so she
Hmm.
has this baptism party, but they're also going to do like wedding style photos at it.
Hmm.
And she sort of surprises the DJ, like, here's the mother daughter, like, here's the mother son dance, here's the father daughter dance.
I've had that
And
happen to me.
he was, yeah, dude.
Literally.
And the
Yep.
DJ was like, this is a, like, ma'am, this is a baptism. What do they say? Like, ma'am, this is a Wendy's. Ma'am, this is a baptism. And they wanted one photo of a certain number of people. And this DJ likes to take a photo that I need of like the whole crowd of everybody out there. And then after we take it, then, and like at bar and bat mitzvahs, it's usually like at the candle lighting or something. And
Hmm.
everyone's out on the dance floor. And then it's just like, I get the last photo and then it's like, hit it. And then the big group is already in the middle of the dance floor and that's when the party starts.
Yep.
And it's a baptism. So I'm off my game because this is not usual baptism protocol. And I look around and I realize everybody that they need for this photo right here is here right now. And if I
Hmm.
just take it, then the mother of the grandmother of the baby, whatever, gets what she wants.
Hmm.
And I wasn't really thinking that this is what this DJ was doing because I don't usually do baptism turn surprise receptions with him. And I messed up his moment.
Oh no.
And I
Yeah.
was like, wait, you're all here. Wait, you're all here. And he and I work together all the time.
Oh.
I make the same mistake twice. And I blew his moment. And he was pissed. He was
Yeah.
pissed. And he's usually a pretty easygoing guy. I mean, he works with 13-year-olds 4 times a weekend, and he was pissed. And I was like, well, won't do that again. But yeah.
Yeah, that happens. No, I get that part. No, I meant just kind of, it's not necessarily the photographer's fault, but in that circumstance where the client's like, oh, you only have until, an hour from now. That's more
Right.
of like a, hey, just a heads up, I'm leaving.
And I understand times are tough. They're tougher than
Yeah.
ever. Prices are higher than ever. I actually haven't raised my prices since
Yeah.
post-COVID.
Hmm.
If anything, I've offered more deals because I like to shoot a very mid-range. I like to work with the maximum number of people in the maximum variety of events. So
Hmm.
I'm very much, there are some people that my budget has been a stretch to the point where they're serving things on plastic knives and
Hmm.
plastic forks, to, huge over-the-top events,
Hmm.
not naming names, but some people have like, costumed cake ladies who walk around with table skirts handing out cake, and they have fire performers
I
and
mean, not for nothing. Those are the kind of people who own entertainment companies and know lots of people.
You know what though? Your wedding was so fun. It was
Uh,
so fun, and because I have to shoot the bar and bat mitzvahs and the other stuff and the 75th birthdays. Because honestly, sorry brides, I will go insane. A lot of the weddings have the same format. They're very similar. The love
mhm.
stories are different, which I love. But I don't want to. I want to be shooting the maximum number of things for the maximum number of people. And while I love me a good high budget wedding because it's easy to shoot, right? Like it's beautiful, the Viennese hour and the
Hmm.
the gorgeous flower fountains of flowers and the ice sculptures, and we're at a venue with waterfalls, and it's
Hmm.
beautiful. It's a little bit like shooting ducks in a barrel. Like I love you, I love your love story. I'm gonna get misty-eyed. I get misty-eyed for every couple. I cry at every wedding at some point.
Hmm.
But I know if I am at the VFW in Port Jervis,
Hmm.
what a stretch to have me.
Hmm.
What a privilege. What a privilege to be their priority. And so I feel like I have to work,
Hmm.
even harder. And you do have to work a little harder, right? You do have to work a little
Ah,
harder to make things look, you
yeah.
know, beautiful because we are in a VFW. We are. Um,
Mhm.
but but yeah, but but I like to be reachable by the maximum number of people. So some people have collection one, which is $8,000. One's
Hmm.
called Unicorn Rainbows, and almost called Everything in the Kitchen Sink, you know, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So
All right. So something we've alluded to a couple of times. We've talked about timeline now and how long and things like that. But something that we had talked about is an important thing with weddings. There's
okay.
something that is debated, hotly debated, the getting re or the first look.
Ah, I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Don't do anything.
Also though, I had written down because I thought about it also is that people are like, I don't want pictures of us getting ready, which I also think is an important one to touch on because I think there's a lot of value to like the bride getting ready and the dress being put on and things like that. But that's just my opinion. But anyway, good.
It comes, yeah,
Take both and either one.
sure. So it comes down to priorities, as always. If you don't want to see each other until your big Catholic wedding, which is very
Mm-hmm.
traditional, the big church wedding, and you want pictures of your dress hanging in a window, which is another really popular photo,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to need to have me there before you put the dress on, and you're going to need to leave plenty of time to get your pictures taken. I tell people about my own wedding because it's personal, but I did the first look and I had decided I'm going to do everything that works for my clients. I'm a vendor. I'm going to do everything that works for my clients and nothing that doesn't. So we got married all in one place. So, and one of my advice for brides is you can only say this so often, but I'm the bride. It doesn't bother me. I'm the bride. It doesn't bother me that I'm going to the garden in mom's minivan. I don't need a limo. I'm the bride. It doesn't bother me that we're only serving cake and punch or we're only having
Mm-hmm.
champagne for champagne toast. And you can't pull that card too often, but you can sort of, I'm the bride. It doesn't bother me if I see the groom before the ceremony.
Mm-hmm.
So, got ready at the hotel, came to the venue, got ready in the bridal suite, came out. Um, Again, I got married in a botanical garden in the Hershey Gardens. There's a
Mm-hmm.
koi pond with a beautiful um, bridge, high,
Mm-hmm.
a bridge over it. And so we had the videographer there and the photographer,
I was like,
and
what is this?
the bridge. And my best friend from college who'd come in from
Oh.
London, she sort of walked me to the bridge.
Mm.
And then, we met in the middle of it and sort of practiced our first dance. And my favorite photo that I have like framed in the house, I'm looking at it right now,
Aw.
is from that moment. Uh, this is morbid, but top 5 moments that I want to flash before my eyes when I die. The moment each of my children was placed in my arm, but also my first look moment with him
Mm.
is really special. The top 5 moments, and also, your bride or your groom, your fiance, they're your person,
Mm-hmm.
and it's your wedding day. And I wanted to spend as much of my wedding day with him as possible. Because otherwise, if you get married at 4, and you don't see each other till you go down the aisle and your reception's over at 11, you're only with them for 7 hours out of that day. So I wanted to spend as much time with them as possible, or with
Mm-hmm.
with Joel as possible. And so we saw each other, and it was super romantic and fun. We did a little ta-da with our families, and sort of, they got to see us and have a little clappy, happy moment. And then we did all of our post pictures.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is something different that I did. Ladies, take note. I had a reverse receiving line. I greeted all of my guests as they arrived at the garden. I
Ah.
because I have delicate pale alabaster skin. I was like under a market umbrella because it was August, and I was under a market umbrella, and we greeted everyone as they arrived. And my mom's friends like could not handle this, could not handle it. Totally cool. My dog was my flower girl. She's there. And we greeted everyone when they arrived. People get seated. Love my dog. She like went behind a tree where no one could see her and like pooped, which was great. I feel like if she had pooped during the ceremony, that's all that anybody would remember. And my husband has a brother who passed away. Actually, they were teenagers 28 years ago yesterday. And there's a couple of times in our life when he should just be there and he's not.
Mm-hmm.
And this was one of those days. And when my husband gets upset about it, his parents get upset about it.
Mm-hmm.
And so his best friend from childhood like walked in, and it was always them as a trio, like Halloween, trick or treating and stuff. And like Mike is here and Brian is not. And he started to lose it. And I was so glad that I could be there for him. And we were just like, we're going for a walk around the pond. We'll be back. Everybody pet the flower dog. And just sort of pulled him away and we could go for a
Mm-hmm.
walk and he could feel emotional. And I was so glad that I wasn't like hiding in a choir room in a church somewhere where like we're starting late and Joel's upset and what's going on and no one wants to tell me. Like, I just wanted to be there for him. I wanted to be there for him for all the emotions of the day because, I'm his person and he's mine. And then we were able to walk right from the ceremony to the gazebo for cocktail hour, which is great, by the way,
Mm-hmm.
having all of your pictures taken. The best food is at cocktail hour. It just is. Like,
Mhm.
it's just universal. And then I accidentally lit a tablecloth on fire under some hot crab dip. So that was cool. And then I had plenty of time to, go to the bathroom and whatever and
Mhm.
go to my wedding. And it's so funny. I'm like telling all these stories because they're so funny. My mom, with the toilets and, um, the pooping and the flower girls and the hot crab dip and the DJs, speakers blowing out. I don't think of my wedding as a place where a lot of things went wrong, but I think, and this is something I tell all my clients, if you're marrying the right person,
Mhm.
the best wedding you ever go to is your own.
Mhm. Mhm.
So do the first look, see each other, spend lots of time together, get your pictures taken, go to your cocktail hour. I think that those are the choices I made and why.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I honestly, I tell everybody, I say the same thing. I mean, I say there's two factors that you kind of brought up that I tell people to do the first look. One is definitely time, is you don't realize how long it's going to take, and the stress of trying to get all your key photos in like that 1 hour time frame where you're now cutting in, you've missed your entire cocktail hour, you're cutting into your reception. That kind of stinks. So it's nice to you can plan out, okay, I can get 2 hours of the first look time frame and do all of my made photos with all my family and all the other stuff. If you get all that stuff, you can knock all that stuff out before, your wedding even starts and you don't have to worry about it. And
Yeah.
you also don't have to worry about your hair being undid or your whatever.
And it also gives you buffer time, right? So
Yeah.
if you do it all, or your plan is to do it beforehand,
Mm-hmm.
and something happens and you don't get to, then you still have cocktail hour to do
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Backup option.
So, I wanted to talk about photos themselves. Is there certain pictures that people that you think because you talk about timeless photos, and I think that's a really important thing. I think people
Mhm.
don't necessarily there are lists out there, there are things out there. You've already talked about how you want to throw them in the fireplace. What is, in your opinion, as a photographer who shot a lot of photos, what are the most important shots that you think need to get caught?
Hmm. Okay. I don't think that you should have such a clear vision of what you want that it gets in the way of what you have.
Okay.
So the list that I want to throw away was actually one that came from um, a wedding planning site. I'm not going to say which one it was,
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
but and it was so mocked that they like took it down. But it was like, I want a photo of the proud and happy parents watching, the bride say her vows. You know, one of them was the adorably nervous groom with his, oh no, the handsome groom with his adorably nervous mug. And I don't want to be, and it doesn't say like the father of the bride handing his credit card to the cheerful wedding planner. Like if I'm so busy looking for this image that you have in your head
Hmm.
of what a wedding planning website told you you should have,
Hmm.
then you might miss out on the beautiful good thing that you do
Hmm.
have. So I think, okay, the must take photos. So I go in with a shot list. I can knock this shot list out in 45 minutes or less.
Okay.
Shot list I go in with is bride alone, groom alone. Because especially if you have a desk job, neither of us do. If you have a desk job, that's going to be the photo that's on your desk, right?
Mm,
This is the one of your
of just you.
of
Nar-
just of like of
You're the
just
nar.
just yeah,
Oh,
just
oh, oh, oh. I
right.
thought you were being narcissistic. I thought you were gonna say like you have a
Just
picture of just yourself.
my own, I am my own lock screen. Um, so bride alone and groom alone. And I have learned with the bride, you got to get lots of the full dress, the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
head to toe, and then also the back from head to toe. And I think sometimes people forget that. So the bride, and I always shoot, so back in my college career, they always taught us you want to look for like bird's eye view, worm's eye view,
Mm.
close, like medium shot, long shot, close up, extreme close up. So if it's a bride, I'm looking at, something from like she's up on the steps with lots of pillars. I'm looking at, like a tight close up of her, just like hair, face, eyes. I'm looking at, from the neck to this. But you
Mm-hmm.
always, but I have like a list of like 7 angles that I'm going for. And
Hmm.
people really like the back of their dress and they really like the whole dress. So that's got to be a thing that happens.
Mm-hmm.
The groom, a lot of times people sort of skimp on the groom. A lot of times the groom's not into this. But I definitely, want to get some of him alone.
Mm-hmm.
And then the bride and groom alone, bride and gloom, the bride and groom alone.
It should be gloomy.
Yes, and I believe doing basics and creatives. And
Okay.
again, newspapers don't exist anymore, but once upon a time, you would send in a picture of the two of you looking at the camera and smiling.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what would run with your wedding announcement. So I think that you need that one. It's just you need it. It's so basic, you just need it. And then what I call basics and creatives. So the creatives can be the dip, the twirl, the spin. They can be, I love movement. I love
Mm-hmm.
movement. I love when wedding gowns move. I love to make
Mm-hmm.
brides and grooms hold hands and run at me. I like movement. I have a couple of shtick things that I
Mm-hmm.
know are going to bring out natural smiles. One of them's a dick joke. Um, Got to know your audience on that one. And so yes, the bride and groom alone, and then all the combinations. So it goes like this, and I can knock this out fast. Bride, bride with mom, bride with dad, bride with mom and dad, bride with her original recipe family, bride and groom and any like so you and the groom and then your parents and then any siblings you have with their partners, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the two of you with your parents, the two of you with his parents, the two of you with both sets of parents. Now we're on to the groom. The bride takes a break. Groom with mom, groom with dad, groom with mom and dad, groom with his parents, both of you with his parents, groom with his original recipe family, groom with his original recipe family, and now all of their partners. And then sometimes we'll even do a bride side. So that brings in grandparents and flower girls, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, if there are small children in the wedding party, I actually recommend, this isn't the order that I like, but we do anything with them first. And
Mm-hmm.
then if there is a whole side of the family with them in it, then we do that second. And
Mm-hmm.
that really harshes the flow, but so do screaming babies. So, um,
That's true. Yes, I
screaming
agree with
babies.
that.
And then the groom, same thing. Groom with mom, groom with dad, groom with mom and dad, both of you with his parents, both of you with both parents, him with his original recipe family, him with the bride, and then their partners. And then sometimes we do all VIPs. And if you are an American family and you have step parents, we have a very strategic conversation about, to be politically,
Make things comfortable.
make things comfortable. You don't want drama. Okay, so I had a wedding.
Avoid
I
drama.
made, I
Yeah.
made, I made a family tree. I went on Facebook and stalked them all, and I made a family tree. Okay, the bride, her mom and dad were married. They had her. They got divorced. Her mom remarried.
Mhm.
They had her sister. For most of her childhood, it was her mom, her stepdad, and her half sister, but they were sister. Sister is bestie, maid of honor. They don't consider themselves anything but.
Mhm.
Mother of the bride gets divorced a second time and marries another guy. The
Mm,
guy is just sort of standing around smoking cigars. He's not anybody's dad. He didn't play anyone's dad name, but he is married to the mother of the bride.
mhm.
Okay, cool. Bride's dad divorced the mom, got married to another woman. They had kids of their own, twins,
Mhm.
right? And the bride wanted pictures of all of her siblings, the half sibling, the twins. But then, like, the stepmother wanted just her husband and her and the twins and the bride and groom. Like, they're just everybody wanted something. And if we're doing all of these
Mm.
pictures with like the stepdads, we got to do at least one of my. I mean, and it was just I made a family tree, and because the groom side was similarly, I think that the dad
Complex.
very similarly complex, and I
Mhm.
think that the father of the groom was only remarried once, but it was
Mm.
similarly complex.
Mhm.
And there was also all these politics, which I think is important to know as a DJ, where the bride did a father-daughter dance.
Mhm.
But then her mom's second husband, he was like her dad for like 10 to 12 years of her childhood.
Mhm.
And so she wanted to dance with him, but didn't feel like she could take the spotlight away from her dad. And so
Mm.
it just sort of told me and the DJ, my cat's here, by the way, hello,
Mhm.
um, had told the DJ, okay, I'm going to play a song that means a lot to me and my stepdad, and we're not going to announce it, but I
Mm.
am going to dance with him for this song. And so when that came up, it was like eye contact, DJ, eye contact, stepdad, eye contact, photographer. Okay, go. So, you do need to account for what some of those politics are and
Mm.
how fresh the hurts are. I mean, had one family where
Mhm.
the hurt was so fresh that the father of the groom was asked to stay in the golf pro shop
Oh
and
wow.
not be around the mother of the groom at all,
Mm-hmm.
and that she would walk him to the hoop and everything else, and the father of the groom was invited to sit in the back row and then excuse himself because that's how fresh the rift in the family was. So, but I also had a grandmother. She was crazy. She was crazy. She wanted a photo of her whole side, but her
Mhm.
husband had had an affair
Oh no.
15, 15
Oh.
years before the bride and groom were born. And then he married his mistress.
Hmm.
And she didn't, I don't want that hussy in my photo. Like it's been 40 years, ma'am. 40 years. I ended up photoshopping a person out. But
Oh
like
boy.
40 years, like it's one thing if this all fell apart last month, 4 weeks ago, it's
Yeah.
40 years. So you got to leave time for all of that and to account for all of that. And yeah, so so you got to be fair to so what's important? Get all the VIPs and every combination that you would want.
Mm-hmm.
And then make sure that you are sensitive to anyone else in your family who wants to be included. And I always say this at the bar and bat mitzvahs
Mm-hmm.
because Nana and Bubby should be grown women who are not watching the family montage and counting. Well, there were 15 pictures of her side and only there were 17 of her side and only 15 of mine, you know, because
Mm-hmm.
you have to be super fair because the last thing you want is the bar mitzvah mom being cornered in the ladies' room, by her mother-in-law and then you are going to hear about the fact that, your side got these photos at your child's bar mitzvah and his side didn't, like for the rest of your life, right up until that child's wedding. Like, you don't want that. Nobody wants that.
Mm-hmm.
So, I think it's just a matter of planning enough time, and really having your vendor understand some of the
Mm-hmm.
politics and know what
Mm-hmm.
they're walking to.
Hmm. Yes, I communication. I think is something that said there that I think is really important. I love that.
But also, like brides and grooms find themselves inheriting family drama that
Of
wasn't their
course,
problem until it's their
that's what
wedding.
weddings are all about.
So I come from a big Italian Catholic family,
Yeah.
and the Italian Catholics' weddings are like a big family reunion.
Mm-hmm.
My dad has cousins. They had 8 kids in the family. My
Mm-hmm.
dad was only one, and he was born from the youngest daughter, from Dolly, from Nanny. And she was always the fun, pretty aunt. Like she was 5 when the oldest sister got married.
Oh wow.
And she was the young, pretty aunt that all of the little cousins loved, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my dad's cousins married, there were 8 of them, married women who hate each other, which is unfortunate. And it turned into this whole you so and so didn't go to her wedding, so and so didn't go to my wedding. And when it came
Mm-hmm.
time for my grandmother, for Dolly, for the youngest, funnest, prettiest one that everybody loved, the fun aunt, when it came time for her granddaughter to be married, no one was speaking to each other. And she was
Mm-hmm.
hurt. She was hurt. And my sister was just like, and this is my problem now. Why? Like this is like so and so won't sit with so and so
Mm-hmm.
my seating chart is the drama. So I think, weddings are where religion, money, family, relationships come together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the most fascinating anthropological study of human behavior and culture I've ever seen. It's great. It's great.
That's
Can we
fantastic.
talk about how everybody makes me cry?
I don't know what that means, but sure.
I get misty-eyed at every single wedding.
You mentioned that. Yes.
I think that I think like, oh, it'll stop happening. It's been however many years now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll stop getting misty-eyed. And there's always a moment where I see the bride and groom and I'm like, yes, this, this is why. This is why you love each other. This is why you're perfect for each other. This is why this is happening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's oftentimes during the dance, when you see people dance together, whether it's silly or whether it's romantic, or you see that they've taken lessons and it's really complicated. And you
Mm-hmm.
realize how much time they put into this thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, almost always on the dance floor, and I found out I was having a baby boy the day of the wedding. And when I shot the mother-son dance that day, I wept. I mean, I'm gonna have a baby
Ah.
boy, and someday he might be I mean, I was just tears. I can shoot through tears. But I think that there's always some point in a wedding day when you see like this is why
Mm-hmm.
they're
All
right for
right.
you.
What was mine?
Okay, yours was. So this is I've talked about our bereavement. I feel like whenever there's a bereaved person in the family, and maybe someone who's watching this, it's always like we could pull across our chest like Clark Kent with a big B instead of Superman for like bereaved. When you have loss in your family,
Hmm.
we can all kind of spot each other. But for people who don't know, Stephen's mom passed away not long before the wedding. It's very fresh, and his aunt stood in for the mother-son dance, and it was so
Hmm.
emotional. And, it was such an honor to her to do this. And it's, she's missing. Was it your mom's biological sister?
No, it's her brother's wife.
Okay. So, this is this person, this cherished person who's not here and they're supposed to be. And, stood in for this role and such an honor and, not a dry eye in the place.
Hmm.
And you're taking it hard. And your bride came out and joined the two of you. And I thought, yeah, that's why.
Hmm.
That's why. Like the good times and bad, like there they are. That's why. Because they have the good times together and the hard times together. And like, you, okay, you want to hear the old Jewish man that comes out of me? You crazy kids are gonna be fine. You're gonna be fine. And sometimes he says things like, I don't eat ham. I don't know. I have an old Jewish man in me and a Scottish woman.
Yeah.
Um, but that's like, you crazy kids. Yeah, always have a moment.
Long
But
Island smoked too many cigarettes.
it's interesting. Yeah. It's interesting though. It's interesting because I cannot predict which couples will make it and which couples won't.
Hmm.
The happiest people on their wedding day get divorced. And yeah, I would never know. I had a wedding where I thought that they were utterly in love. They took a couple of let's get our token backs breaks. And then
Hmm.
I saw on medium.com, like 2 years later, the bride posted an article about how, like, with the emotionally abusive relationship she was in and how her wedding day he like pulled her aside to berate her for getting a migraine. And I was like, my God, I, my job was to follow you around
You have no idea.
and pay attention to what you're doing. And I had no idea.
Huh.
And you never
Hmm.
know. And I had a couple, I actually shot the bride's first wedding in 2012. And then
Hmm.
I got to shoot her second wedding this past fall. My relationship with them lasted longer than the marriage.
That's great.
Because I
Yeah,
guess we're wedding people. If you're not a
there you
wedding,
go. Yeah.
you're not a wedding person.
That's interesting.
What's your favorite thing? Do you ever get misty-eyed?
Um, you know what? It's very similar. It's oftentimes it is actually like during like the first dance. Not all the time, but generally the first dance is what that moment is because it really is like a time when you could see them looking at each other. Not all the time because sometimes it's an awkward moment, but like when you see them kind of like connect and it's just like it's like almost like a spotlight moment where like the light is over them and it's just the two of them and that's all they realize, see, feel is them together. And
Hmm.
that's that moment, which is kind of cool. So yeah, that's usually what it is.
Yeah.
Like, you could feel the emotion because and it's only if you're like really paying attention, not to them dancing, but like to their faces and how they're like engaging with each other. That's kind of cool.
Mhm. Yeah. And I always like when I'm like I said, I'm in the front row and I'm paid to zoom in on it. But like I will see the saying their vows and I'll just see like the groom's bottom lip start to quiver and I'll just be like,
Mm.
"Hmm." And one time I was at a family wedding doing that. My sister was like, what? And I was like, tell you later, tell you. Oh, but one of the
Uh,
must take shots I was going to say is,
mhm.
everyone's always like the groom's face as she comes down the aisle, but I think your expressions when you see each other. And I feel bad for the groom because wedding culture, wedding movies, wedding magazines, wedding websites have all sold this to the bride as this like amazing moment. Like get a
Mhm.
picture of his face as he sees you like floating down the aisle with doves carrying, your I don't know, veil made by Swedish nuns. Um, at this moment and like a lot of times it's like a shit-eating grin like it's stage fright it's
Yep.
there's sometimes they cry um sometimes they cry. I think people get more emotional at their first look. I think that that's actually more
Mhm.
intimate and the better tears are then.
Mhm.
um
Mhm.
and people started saying private vows. I don't know if that's
Mhm.
something you've encountered. Private vows, they say vows
Mhm.
to each other when they see each other, which is lovely.
Mhm.
And yeah, yeah, but I sometimes with the grooms, like I'm just like, oh, come on, man, cry, cry. Like here she
Do it
comes.
for her.
Yes, pull out a nose hair, do it. Um,
Yeah. No, I can attest to that. Yeah, that's a real thing.
so I
Uh,
probably have to wrap this up because my kids' school is calling, and I never know if like they spiked a fever or if like one of them's thrown a chair or something.
sure.
So So do you want to, can you hold on one second and like not have it, can you help and have it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
Hello?
all right, yeah. So, yeah, no, I totally understand. You gotta jump off. So that's, you know what? We had so much to talk about. Maybe do a part two at some point. But
Yeah,
thank you so very, very much for being a part of it and being on
you're
here.
welcome.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, if you guys need photography, please give us a call. We'll have Angie come in there, whether it's your wedding, your special day, any of your milestone dates. We'd love to have you there. Once again, we're Magical Memories Entertainment. This is Magical Memories Unlocked, your guide to event success. Everybody, have a wonderful day. Thanks.
Thank you guys.
Thanks for listening to Magical Memories Unlocked. This guide to event success is so helpful, some are shocked. Planning something big, we're here for you, with ideas and tips to make your vision come true. Magical Memories Entertainment is the team to make all your guests